gone too far. Through that door, you're going to find a locomotive, and I'm going to find a lot of paperwork. So let's avoid that door, please. Sit back and enjoy your ride.
He just said don't go that way.
Welcome to one of the most historic communities in the United States. Today's trip will take you from downtown Gettysburg, deep into the heart of Adams County, Pennsylvania. We will travel through open farm pastures and dense woodlots, across ancient creeks and streams, eventually reaching the bountiful apple orchards at the foot of the South Mountain. While this town is best known for the Civil War battle that took place here in 1863 and Abraham Lincoln's famous Gettysburg Address, there is a deeper history to this land. A story that goes beyond the battle. The two locomotives used are the 1863 freight locomotive and the 1786 former Amtrak locomotive. This unit is being renumbered to 1786, a number of special significance, as it is the year Gettysburg was founded. In the decades between the Revolution and the American Civil War, Adams County established itself as a center for commerce, culture, and political activity. Agriculture and carriage making dominated its economy, while new educational institutions broadened the county's cultural horizons. Gettysburg College, then called Pennsylvania College, was founded in 1832. In the area we're now riding through, it is still a renowned institution that is intertwined with the history of Gettysburg.
We are on board the Gettysburg Railroad Excursion in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania.
In the area of our current location, you will find the railroad cut. In July 1863, the Western Maryland Railroad connected Gettysburg to the east, and an unfinished extension paralleled Chambersburg Pike, now US 30, on the west side of town. Although rails had not yet been laid, the roadbed was finished, including a series of 3 cuts through the north-south ridges. On the afternoon of July 1st, these served as protection to Confederate units advancing on the field, but became a fatal trap which hindered mobility and the ability to return fire when Union troops attacked the cut. The railroad was completed after the war and is still in daily use today. The remains of a Union soldier were discovered in 1997. We know that this unknown soldier was killed up at the top of this ridge on July 1st, 1863, but his remains were not discovered for 130 years. In 1997, he was disinterred and reburied at the Soldiers' National Cemetery in Gettysburg, with full military honors, including the traditional 21-gun salute. By the summer of 1863, the Civil War had been raging for over 2 years. Following a series of decisive victories in Virginia, General Robert E. Lee and his Confederate Army marched north through the Shenandoah Valley into Maryland and Pennsylvania. The primary goal of the invasion was to bring the war into Northern territory. If Lee could win a major battle in Pennsylvania, he could threaten the U.S. Capitol in Washington and possibly force a negotiated surrender with Lincoln.
Spoiler alert, nope.
By June of 1863, Lee's army had spread out across south-central Pennsylvania, gathering much-needed supplies and provisions. General George Meade, the new commander of the Union Army, followed Lee into Pennsylvania and positioned his army in defense of Washington. By late June, the two generals were drawn toward each other by a series of roads, all of which converged at the town of Gettysburg. Decades later, the monuments you see today were constructed to honor the Union regiments that fought to defend this ground. Eventually, the land was protected by the federal government and became known as Gettysburg National Military Park. We're now entering the area of the Eternal Peace Light Memorial. Dedicated in 1938 on the 75th anniversary of the battle, President Franklin D. Roosevelt spoke to a massive crowd, including many aging Civil War veterans. Atop the monument, a flame burns 24 hours every day in honor of the lasting peace between North and South. We're now riding by the Confederate cannons of Lieutenant Colonel Thomas Henry Carter's battery. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the deafening sounds of artillery fire, heard by Gettysburg civilians as they sheltered in their homes awaiting the end of the battle. There were more than 600 cannons in use during the Battle of Gettysburg. And during the bombardment before Pickett's charge on July 3rd, 200 cannons were firing at the same time.
This, the light and the sun, the civil rain thing.
During this era, rail passenger coaches were often named after inns, reflecting the historical practice of travelers using inns for lodging. This tradition likely started with early coach designs inspired by stagecoaches, creating a sense of community among passengers. The GETR 1862, formerly the Elmira Inn. Built in 1949 by the Budd Company for the Pennsylvania Railroad's fleet of streamliners in the fleet of modernism as a 21-roomette sleeper named Elmira Inn. Converted in 1963 as a 72-seat coach for World's Fair service, it later went to the Penn Central and then New Jersey Transit. The car was retired in 1989 and sold to the United Railroad Historical Society. Ringling purchased it for use on the Blue Train in 1991. The car was used exclusively by the Torres family globe of steel riders, as these performers rode 8 motorcycles in a steel sphere for Ringling. Purchased by Pax Rail in 2017, the car was renamed the Elmira Inn. The GETR 1863, formerly the Coatesville Inn, a 1949 Budd-built railroad passenger car. Built in 1949 by the Budd Company for the Pennsylvania Railroad as the Coatesville Inn. The car was acquired in 1992 by Ringling for the Blue Unit, acquired in 2017 by Pax Rail. The GETR 1864, formerly the Cedartown, a 1955 Budd-built railroad passenger car. This was originally Seaboard Airline 55, Cedartown. Budd-built in 1955, it eventually found its way to Autotrain before arriving on RBBB's roster in 1982. Pax Rail purchased the car in 2017, renamed it Cedartown. The GETR 1865, formerly the Duke University, a 1950 Budd-built railroad passenger car. Much like the 2 former in-series ex-Pennsylvania Railroad Budd-built passenger cars in our fleet, the former Duke University was built as a 10-roomette, 6 double-bedroom sleeper for the Norfolk and Western Railway. Run in a series that were all named for online schools, such as Virginia Military Institute, Roanoke College, University of Cincinnati, and Ohio State University. After the market for overnight sleeper rail shrank in the 1950s, the N&W sold that car and others to the PRR. PRR owned a controlling interest in N&W at the time for conversion to coaches for the 1964-1965 New York World's Fair traffic, just like our other 2 former in-series cars. Over time, the people of Gettysburg worked to establish a better transportation network. Public funds were used to build roads, and private companies created turnpikes. And like many other areas of the country, there were even attempts to construct a canal. To the south, the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad was chartered in 1827, with tracks laid the following year. By 1831, plans were developed to run a railroad through this area, linking the industrial centers along the Susquehanna River with Gettysburg, and extending the line southwest into Maryland to connect with the Chesapeake and Ohio Canal and the B&O Railroad. However, attempts to build this new Pennsylvania Railroad were abandoned, leaving an unfinished railroad bed and deep cuts in the landscape west of Gettysburg. After many challenges, a railroad from the east finally arrived in Gettysburg in 1858, just 5 years before the battle. However, the unfinished railroad cut west of town remained for many years and became a notable feature associated with the Battle of Gettysburg. In the 1880s, the Western Maryland Railroad was extended south into Maryland. At the same time, a new line was built from Mount Holly Springs south to Gettysburg. On March 4, 1884, the 18-mile Gettysburg and Harrisburg Railroad that you are now riding on was completed, marked by the driving of 2 golden spikes into the tracks at Oak Ridge, very close to where we are now traveling. One spike was inscribed with 1863 and the other with 1883, the year standardized time was established in the United States and Canada. The first passenger train on this track ran on April 21st, 1884, pulled by a steam locomotive called South Mountain. South Mountain is the northern extension of the famous Blue Ridge Mountain Range in Tennessee, Virginia, and Maryland. The range extends about 70 miles from the Potomac River to Dillsburg, Pennsylvania. During the French and Indian War, the mountain provided protection for area settlers against enemy raids and incursions from the west. And during the Civil War, it served a critical role in disguising the movements of the invading Confederate forces. For the early settlers, life on the frontier during colonial times was a harsh existence. During the French and Indian War, many settlements were raided by enemy forces, and dozens of civilians were killed or carried off as captives. Local men formed militia units and marched into western Pennsylvania together with British forces, and eventually the threat was eliminated with the capture of Fort Duquesne at present-day Pittsburgh in 1758. One of the local heroes of the French and Indian War was Colonel Hans Hamilton, an early settler who at one time owned much of the land in the area we're riding through now. 20 years later, men from this area once again rallied to defend their homes and villages, this time serving in the Continental Army against the British during the American Revolution. Today, cemeteries and churchyards across Adams County are filled with the graves of these revolutionary patriots.
Well, he's already talked to them as a year and ends up on his property. He's still just gets going. He's like, it's not
We are now approaching the Newville or Biglerville Road, modern-day Route 34, leading north out of Gettysburg. This is one of the 10 major roads that converge at Gettysburg. On July 1st, 1863, about 7,000 men of Confederate General Robert Rodes' division passed here on their way to join the battle. We are getting close to one of the original stops on the 1884 Gettysburg and Harrisburg Railroad, Goldenville. The Goldenville Road, which we are now crossing, dates to 1747 and is one of the oldest roads in the area. George Washington traveled this road in 1794, and in the area we're now riding through, a Civil War skirmish took place on June 26, 1863, between the 26th Pennsylvania Emergency Regiment and Confederate troops under the command of General Jubal Early. Let's go back in time to 1794. The federal government had imposed a new tax on whiskey to reduce the national debt. Farmers in western Pennsylvania, who made and sold whiskey in large quantities, felt the tax unfairly targeted them. In 1794, tensions escalated into violence when protesters attacked tax collectors and government officials. President George Washington responded by sending federal troops to suppress the rebellion, demonstrating the federal government's authority to enforce its laws. In October 1794, President Washington himself passed through Adams County on his way home after putting an end to the rebellion. He is said to have spent the night at Joshua Russell's Tavern, in the area we're riding through now. Washington was the first of our nation's presidents to visit the area, but not the last, largely due to its popularity as the site of one of the largest battles in American history. 25 presidents have visited Gettysburg since Washington. Much of the route of the Gettysburg and Harrisburg Railroad line passed through undeveloped farmland. Several stops were just platforms set up next to farmlands, providing locals with an opportunity to deliver their goods to a larger market. One of these stops was Table Rock Station, which we will pass momentarily. Native Americans inhabited Pennsylvania for more than 10,000 years prior to the arrival of Europeans. In the absence of preserved written records, much of what we know about their existence comes from the items they left behind. Over the years, thousands of artifacts have been discovered in Adams County, mostly near creeks where camps and villages existed long ago. These indigenous peoples developed unique cultures, provided for their families, and built complex communities that thrived for centuries. Over time, Native Americans created more permanent settlements along rivers like the Susquehanna, leaving this area We are now passing over Conewago Creek, an Iroquois term meaning at the place of the rapids. Waterways like this one, running through the northern and eastern portions of Adams County, flow into the Susquehanna River and the Chesapeake Bay. In the south and west, streams make their way to the Monocacy River and eventually to the Potomac. These ancient waterways were vital to the lives of both Native Americans and the Europeans who came after them.
Yeah, this is a long hike up there. You're like,
I need your attention for a very important safety announcement. The train is about to stop. If you are currently standing in one of the cars, please be seated. If you are walking through the train, we ask that you take your seat and secure any loose items, as items may shift while we stop.
We stopped here for about 10 minutes or so. Our conductor and engineer hopped down. They're going to move over to the other locomotive and take us back to Gettysburg. So this will be a great time to get up, stretch your legs, or take some photos of tiny trees.
Sorry for the shakes. I'm doing this one-handed.
In the years after the American Civil War, Adams County's commercial fruit industry soared. One of the local pioneers of this effort was Noah Shealy, who first introduced his Adams County apples to the nation at Chicago's 1893 World's Fair. Here he sold 1,500 barrels of apples at $1.50 each, more than $50 each in today's money. His unexpected success sparked the birth of the Adams County fruit industry, and many of his once skeptical neighbors followed his lead and planted their own commercial orchards. Using the new Gettysburg and Harrisburg Railroad, local fruit growers could now transport their goods to large urban markets far outside the region. In 1903, local families and businesses formed the Fruit Growers Association of Adams County. And in 1920, Adams County ranked first in apple production statewide, a distinction that continues to this day. In fact, 70% of all Pennsylvania apples come from Adams County's 20,000 acres of fruit trees, and the county is 6th in the nation for apple production. Beginning in the 1960s and 1970s, Haitian and Puerto Rican migrant laborers maintained Adams County's abundant orchards. In the 1980s, the workforce shifted to a predominantly Mexican community, which was less transitory and is now an integral part of Adams County life. These men and women have become the backbone of our prosperous fruit industry. Today, there are upwards of 35 varieties of apples produced by local orchards, making this area the heart of Pennsylvania Apple County and home to the National Apple Harvest Festival. This event takes place every year during the first 2 weekends in October. Held at the South Mountain Fairgrounds since 1965, the festival celebrates the harvest season and features over 300 arts and crafts vendors. Apples are available in all shapes, sizes, and forms, from homemade applesauce, apple pies, apple dumplings, and apple pancakes, to apple cider, apple slushies, apple milkshakes, caramel apples, and even apple fries. The festival is run by hundreds of volunteers, and all proceeds are donated to local, regional, and national charities.